Hello, my name is BC Akone and I just want to add value to you. This is pointer to your motivation and I'm sharing to you on focus on your goals. Now, sometimes we just get worked up by trying to compare ourselves to others, and then we move into this competition zone that doesn't help us and do any good for us. A little healthy competition is fine, see, but when you become consumed by the desire to do better than others, then you cross over into that unhealthy territory where you begin to lose focus on what exactly you are called to do. So you've got to learn how not to climb the ladder of success by trying to look at what others are doing, but by concentrating on what it is that you want to do. You see, focus on your focus. See, where your focus goes, there your energy will flow to. When you concentrate on what you are called to do, it begins to grow. See, when you pay attention to what your goals are, then it begins to gain more attention from others. It becomes attractive to others, just like it's attractive to you. So don't allow yourself to be focused on what others are doing. Rather, keep your focus on what you are called to do. Keep your focus on your goal. As you focus on what you are called to do, your motivation, the desire to do it begins to increase, and then you find yourself enjoying it more than looking somewhere. When you compare yourself to others or try to compete with others, you are allowing negative energies into your life, and that will not help you. Focus on you. You deserve it. Till I come your way next time, please stay motivated and be well. Wow. You're welcome again to your leadership community life. And today is gonna be a blowout. Before I go ahead, my name is Bisi Akone, and I just want to add value to you. I mean, you saw the banner that we put up there, and recently we've had some serious issues of brutality against people, and we are standing against that. We are saying it's not right because people matter, and until we begin to value people, we cannot build a nation, we can build organizations, we can do the things that God wants us to do. So please, everybody's life matters, and we must value people. This is the leadership community, and because it is that, we must talk about the fact that people matter, and until we begin to see people as very critical to every organization, we might not be able to achieve the aims that we want to achieve. So please, let's do away with every form of brutality, whether it's from the police or from any other person or organization. We need to understand that everybody's life really counts and matters. There's something you are missing when you are not taking the juice that comes from a man's life. Having said that, I want to, it's a great pleasure to be having the person that we're having in-house today. He is a very fantastic personality. I'm proud to call him my friend. I'm excited to have him on your leadership community today. And I'm sure that you and I have a lot to draw. I'm ready because I really want to take some notes. I want to follow this. Now, let me say that we moved it from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. because we are considering those who are in his space, because he resides in the United States currently. And it's quite a lot of sacrifice for him to come in here. And I know that he's a man who loves to add value to people. My duty right now is actually to introduce him to us. But I believe that whatever he is going to say here today will introduce him fantastically. So I'm going to tell you this, and that's the briefest I can tell you. He is a futurist. So he's a man who can look at tomorrow and come out with certain, let me call them predictions for now, but they are always precise and they always work out right. He's a man that is gifted in the area of leadership, is gifted in the area of business development, is a consultant, and of course, he has the grace and the authority of God upon him to do what he is doing right now in our space and in our client. I listen to him a lot, and I've gained quite a great number of insights from the things that he shares. Today, he's going to be sharing with us on insights that relates to leading the future. And I'm sure you are wondering, what does that mean? What does it? Well, I know that he has what it takes to let us know. Leadership is changing in our world very fast. I remember sometime I said that even for those of us who are in the religious climb, in the church system, that the eras when we are going to have one great person over all is fading away, and we're going to have many great people rising up practically at the same time. And I believe that for a nation, you don't need one leader, you need actually a lot of leaders. So what does it take to lead in the present and in the future climes that we are in today? I want to present to you my friend, my brother, a man I highly respect as a mentor to many young people today. He's called Olakunrin Kenneth Shorinyo, currently residing in Dallas, but he is a global entity. So please join me. If you can clap, I'll be glad that you are doing that. As I bring up to you to the studio this very moment, our own dear Olakunrin Shorinyo, whom we popularly call PK. So can we have you in-house, sir?
Thank you. I really do. I hope I'm not too dark. Can they see me clearly, though?
I can see you clearly. A little dark, but it's fine. We can see you clearly.
Great, thank you. I had to change my location. Maybe I should try and put some light in the room. Maybe it will help a bit.
I think we can pick you. We can pick you that way.
Yeah.
Yeah. Pick you that way.
Thank you again, man of God, for inviting me. It's always a pleasure to share the platform with you. Thank you for what you do. You know, you are somebody I respect a lot. The quality and the resourcefulness that you bring, you know, is priceless. I don't take it for granted. I will always celebrate your uniqueness and your authenticity, your vibrant soul. You know, you're just so vibrant and open, you know, magnanimous, the graciousness that you bring every time. You know, it's a joy to be connected with you, and I do not take it for granted. Thank you for putting this platform together and for creating this opportunity for us to exchange. You know, I'm excited about that. Thank you, sir. Thank you all, those who are with us tonight, everybody at the back end and all the guys participating. I'm going to try and do this real quick, and hopefully we can get into some questions and fact-finding, right? And, you know, maybe we could address some pertinent issues that are important to each person as much as we can. So to speak to leadership in today and in the future is quite, you know, interesting. There's so much that is happening. There's so much that is on ground, really, that, you know, we need to understand, because, you know, when we say change, you know, change is pretty much an energy. You don't need to see anything to recognize the direction of change. You know, when change happens, the weather may be the same, your bed is not going to blow out, you are not going to have sex differently, you are not going to give birth to kids differently, you know, you may not lose your job. Nothing may be happening physically that is announcing the arrival of change, but it doesn't cancel the potency of change. And one of the things I like to remind people of is that, you know, change has occurred. A big, massive change has occurred in how we interpret reality, in how we make decisions, in how we view the world, in how we interact with the world, right? In how we gain attention, in how we keep that attention, in how we deploy the power that that attention gives. Everything is changing. How we create influence in the world today is changing. There's so much creating that change, but the change is going on. I'm going to try all I can to talk about, the texture of the change. I'm going to try and talk about, why the change is happening. And then I'm going to use my last minutes to quickly focus on what we need to do and how we need to think, pretty much. So let's start from where we should. What is the texture of this change? The change is noiseless, first of all. Please write that down. It's noiseless. Change by design is noiseless, right? When you see change happening, you are most likely late already. Because those who lead change, those who maximize the effect of change, the leaders and the idea shepherds and the culture shapers and the influencers of new change, are not those people who wait to see the effect of change. A lot of times when we underscore change, right, we underscore, the effects of it. Because we see something, right? We see, COVID happening. We see, people dying. We see, we find it difficult to discern change, to interpret change, except we are being, impacted by discomfort or pain, or measurable, significant, experiences that we can see, we can feel, we can touch. So if a new law, a new legislation, maybe a fire outbreak, maybe an attack, maybe an armed robbery attack or an assassination, or a change in government or an election, if we don't see those kind of things, we find it very difficult to see change, to understand that change is in force, but when you look at it deeply, you see that a lot of that, as amazing as it is, as real as it is, are at best the reaction to change or the response to change, right? In practical times, right, change is deeper than what you can see with your physical eyes. You see, that is why nations fail. That is why powerful nations fail. That is why superpowers and empires fail. That is why big businesses fail and fade, right? And what I've said a lot of times is dominance does not disappear. It just fades in potency. Power does not evaporate. It just fades in potency, right? And so I'm not going to speak to weakness or powerless entities. I want to speak to organizations, people, government, systems, structures that actually believe that they are wielding a type of power today. So that will be a business or a successful business or a government or an enterprise or a church or a religious institution of some sort, whatever it is. Once you claim to be on top of your game, if you are in that bracket, that you could look at your work and pretty much conclude that you are on top of your game, then you are the one I'm talking to. When you believe that you are standing well, you are doing well, you are the guys that actually need to know the character of change, the texture of that change, and evidence in its noiselessness. Change is noiseless. And you need to understand that. See, like I said, don't wait for pain and tragedy and disaster, and discomfort and disequilibrium, or and chaos, confusion. Don't wait for all of that, protest and things like that, for you to know that an era has ended and a new one is beginning. You see, when you talk about change, I don't care change we are talking about. Something critical is ending and something new is starting. It can be in your body, it can be in your business, it can be in a country, it can be about a system, it can be about a device, but change pretty much is the, architecture of newness, pretty much creating new experiences. Now, you are going to be part of the creators of those experiences, or you are going to be a victim of it, or a casualty of it, or a servant of it. Whichever way, your goal is to be at the top of that change on the table of the architecture of that change. And that is what Kodak did not know. I've said that repeatedly. That's what Kodak did not understand. Kodak in the 70s and the early 80s were the King Kong, right, of the paper film industry. They dominated the industry. They were they dominated everywhere. Then people, they pay in Kodak, in their research systems, were coming up with ideas suggestive that the paper film industry they used to dominate is about, that they were dominating at that time, is about to be disrupted by digital filming, digital films. The digital films is going to wrestle paper films to the ground. And Kodak was so blinded by the awesomeness of their progress and their results and their success, they forgot it's going to change. That is why I say to people, you can be loyal to the mission forever, never to the method. Paper film is a method, it's not a mission, right? The mission is photography. The mission is documentation of history, documentation of experiences. So many things can make that happen. When you broaden your mind to understand that the mission is documentation of experiences, a book can do that. Television can do that. A library can do that. So many things can do that, including digital films. Paper film is just a method of documentation. It's just a method of photography, right? So when you are loyal to the method, you will be disrupted. When you are loyal to the mission, you will disrupt the method yourself. You will be the innovator that is taking the method of expressing your mission to the next level. Transportation is the mission. Uber is a method. Taxi cab is a method. Even car is a method. Plane, method. Ship, method. Choppers, method, right? Horses, methods. When we were riding camels in the world, it was a method. It was disrupted. When we were riding horses, it was disrupted. Chariots, methods. The mission is transportation. So when you are loyal to the mission, you always know how to welcome or to even spot the expiry of a particular method that is expressing the mission. So when people miss that, they camp around the method at the expense of the mission, and by that they seal their own irrelevance in the future by themselves because they begin to fade. When you look at empires and if you look at Kodak, when the change began, they didn't notice anything. They didn't see anything. Everything looked normal. But something was changing underground, changing people, changing markets, because the idea of digital film in itself is a symptom, it's a microcosm of something larger, right? And so when you just look at digital, it shows the culture of a people ahead. It shows the taste of a people ahead. It shows the character of a people ahead. It shows the community that is ahead of you. And so you are dealing with changing people. And once you are dealing with changing people, you are dealing with changing markets. You are dealing with changing markets, changing demands, changing experiences, changing times. When you hear change, it's not just about clock. The calendar is not changing. All those things are not changing. What is changing is the people in the world. So Changing times is automatically changing people. So when you hear changing time, you must ask yourself, what is the people factor to this change? What is the market factor to this change? What are the attitudinal factors, the behavioral factors, the consumption patterns that are changing? You can, depending on where you find yourself, once you find that the future is changing because people are changing, you must ask yourself, what type of people are changing? What is creating this change? What is the new way they are thinking? What is the new way they are loving? What is the new way they are working? What is the new way they are playing? What is the new way they are even warring? You know, so the way we work, the way we war, the way we play, the way we love, the way we buy, the way we consume, everything must, depending the way we accept treatment in the hospital, the way we go to court, the way we, you know, everything is changing. So once you see change, depending on the area you are, if you are in tourism, what is the impact of this on our market leadership or on me as a leader? You know, what is the, you know, impact on this, on influence? You know, the people, the baby boomer generation must be led with a different set of assumptions. I'm going to get there. The millennial generation are to be led with a different type of assumptions. The Gen Z must be led, because these are a different type of people, naturally made by God. And so you want to understand the character of the buyer of your ideas, and then you can then, you know, adjust to ensure that they are able to pay for you. And when I say pay, I don't mean that you are necessarily a product all the time. You might be a product, you might be a service, but also you might be an ideology. You could be a philosophy, you could be a system, you could be democracy, you could be capitalism, you could be communism, right? Communism cracked because it did not understand how the world was changing. The world was embracing, you know, enterprise and freedom at a level that communism could not deal with. And so capitalism won. You know, the same thing with democracy and different ideas in the world. The same thing with terror. Terrorism as an ideology, right? The same thing with that. You know, so you guys to, Hitler will never rise, you know, if he had come in a different generation. He rose on the back of the crisis of the First World War, the disenchantment of the Germans after the First World War, the economic crisis. If he had come at a different time, it wouldn't be Adolf Hitler. Hitler was a brand whose time was at come because it was favorable to his agenda, was aligned with the yearning and the aspirations, the fear, the anxiety of the people of his time. Obama, in a different time, would never have been president. It was a time it was a brand whose time had come. You know, at that time, the Americans were tired of a Republican leadership. They've just had Iraq war. They've just had 8 years of George Bush. They were in a major recession. They didn't want to see a Republican. They didn't know what they want, but they were clear what they did not want. They didn't want anything that looks like the obvious. So the president in 2008 had to be either black or woman or something. It can't be same of same, you know. So they wanted something new. Obama showed up and boom, that was it. It was a brand whose time had come. When change is happening, those experiencing it need to understand its character so that they can plot their own place in the movement of that change. So the first idea is that change is noiseless. That is the character you want to understand, right? The British Empire, they control the whole world. The British Empire controlled the whole world. But take a look at it now. Where is the British Empire today? They are not dead. Like I told you, power does not disappear. It doesn't evaporate. It fades in potency. So the British Empire is still there. That is Britain. That is the United Kingdom. Are they still powerful? Yes. Are they a poor country? No. Are they suffering? No. Are they weak in the world? No. Are they a first world nation? Yes. Is their economic vibrant? More than many. You know, so they are there, right? And thousands, millions of people in the world will relish the opportunity to live in Britain till today, right? But are they who they used to be? No. Did they control the world like they used to? No. They are there. In fact, they are smaller than their colonial, than their colony, the United States, because people forget that the Britain colonized the United States. But look at the United States now. That's the new superpower, isn't it? Then when you stretch to imagine that, Britain gave Singapore independence, so to say. But look at Singapore today with a per capita income higher than that of their colonial master, Britain. What do you think about that? So change happens when you look at Italy. I like to give those examples because they are the easiest for everybody to understand. Italy, humble Italy, that is the awesomeness of the Roman Empire. That is the legacy of Julius Caesar right there. When Rome ruled the world, Rome is still there. Rome is still powerful. But are they the space they used to be? No. Are they the power they used to be? No. Are they dead? No. Are they still a first world country on many levels? Yes. But are they the Roman Empire of Julius Caesar? No. When you stretch to Greece that is struggling, looking for comfort in the European Union, that is the legacy of Alexander the Great, who conquered the known world of his time. The whole world spoke Greek at a time. That is the Greek Empire. That is it. That's Greece right there. Iran is the Babylonian Empire. Iraq, I mean. Turkey is the great Ottoman Empire that defeated the Roman Empire. That is Turkey, the same Turkey today. You see, we can go on and on. The idea is change. All these nations were powerful. They didn't plan to fade. When Rome was in charge, they didn't plan to fade. When Britain was in charge, they didn't plan to fade. When the Ottomans were in charge, they didn't plan to fail. When the Babylonians were ruling the world, they didn't plan to fail, because people don't know that Iraq, the Babylonian Empire, pretty much ruled the whole world, right? The world of their time. When that was happening, they didn't know they were going to fail. They didn't know. It happened noiseless. Why? Because they could not, I'm not even sure they had the capacity to map the movement of change and to know in their prevailing success and their systems and structures that keep it going has expired or is expiring, such that by themselves they need to create a rebellion inside of themselves to disrupt what is working and birth newness, right? That is the reality that we have to consider. And that is why powers come and powers go, right? Because somehow they miss the point every time. If you come to the social media space, where's Facebook? You had, social platforms like High Five, like MySpace, those were, look at Yahoo. Look at Yahoo today. Yahoo was bought for how much? $400 million or something like that. That was the King Kong of the search engine space, right? But where is Yahoo? Struggling. Nokia was the phone. What's Apple? What's Samsung? Nokia was the phone. Nokia could not pay salaries for years and then bought eventually by Microsoft, and is still struggling. What about that? So when you look at that, you see that there is no status that is final. It is the duty of the human condition. It is the duty of the human condition to consistently take a second look at itself and fact-find and find the idea, thinking, assumptions that continuously question even its greatest achievement, so that it can elongate the strength of his own dominance. So I would say the first thing that the leaders of the future have to be thinking about today is to spot where change is happening. Where is change happening, right? Has change come? Yes. A lot of change is happening already. Now let's move to the second question. Why are these changes happening? It's simple. We are receiving a new generation. We are receiving a new generation with a new way of thinking, with a new way of interpreting reality, right? Just imagine that all your customers right, are Igbos, if all your customers are Igbos in Nigeria, in Eastern Nigeria, then your products, your ideas, whatever you want to sell to them, right, must be textured to meet with the culture of the Igbos, the thinking of the Igbos, because those who buy them are predominantly Igbo, right? If your customers are going to be French, right, then you got to texture your product to meet the culture and the assumptions and all of that that defines the French, that defines their taste board, and so many things, whatever you are selling. So you pretty much have to understand the audience that you are dealing with. Okay, so part of that is to know that the world has changed based on its demography. We now have Gen Z, right, taking the baton from millennials. And it is happening at the same time. We still have a lot of millennials alive. A lot. Once you are 26, 27, you are still a millennial, right? So millennials are going to live for a long time. Then you have the oldest Gen Z, I think it's 24. The oldest Gen Z is 24. So you have a lot of young people today who are millennials in their late 20s, in their early 30s. Then you have a lot of more young people on ground and coming who are Gen Z. And so anybody from age 1 to like 24 years old is pretty much Gen Z. And when you play a 30-year game, which is a game I like, so when people talk to me about 2060 in Nigeria and stuff like that, I respect it, but I say 2060, that's a lot. Just put 30 years in front of you. 30 years from now will be 2050, right? Will be 2050. Now, you pause and add 2050 to anybody you know, to the age of anybody you know. And then you will see what we are talking about when we say the future and we say change. I mean, that's just common sense. If the person is 50, if you add 30 years, it will be 80. If he's 60 today, in 30 years, it will be 90. If he's 70 today, in 30 years, it will be 100. Right? If he's 50, it will be 80. If he's 40 today, it will be 75. It will be 70 rather. If he's 45, it will be 75. If he's 30 today, if he's 30 years old today, he will be 60. 60. For Nigeria, for example, you know what the mortality rate is. It's about 48 or something like that. You know. So the idea is the moment you are 30 and above now, you are the fathers, the elders, the seniors of 30 years time. If you are 30 now, in 30 years, 60. If you are 40 now, in 30 years, you'll be 70. If you are 50 now, in 30 years, you'll be 80. If you are 60 now, in 30 years, you'll be 90. If you are 70 now, in 30 years, you'll be 100. Does it not make sense that the least strategy you can have is to have a 30-year goal? And of course, a 30-year plan. Is that not it? If in 30 years' time, if you are age 30 and above, and you are not ready to leave this world in 30 years, there's probably something existentially wrong with your presence, right? So you need to begin to think of succession planning now and begin to think seriously about your legacy now. I don't understand why people wait till they are old to write their will. I think they are short-sighted. You know, I mean, I understand that now. I mean, you know, once you can pay for a lawyer here, they're already pitching to you. Once you own it, the moment you begin to own something, because there's no mathematics. You can deny it all you want. People stronger than you have died. People more spiritual than you have died. People younger than you have died. People older than you have died. People more successful than you have died. And they did not die because they committed suicide. Something took them out, right? It could be a disease. It could be natural. It could be anything. So you, apart from faith, you have no mathematics. You have the promises of God. But those who died too had the promises of God. Old men who you respect have died. Women you respect died younger than your age, actually. Men that you respect died younger than your age, and they were not assassinated. Nature took them out. So you don't have any mathematics. That is why when people say they are afraid of risk, I look at them, I say, what? You take risk every day. The fact that you are planning for next year, you are planning for December, tell me, what is the mathematics you have that can prove to you that you will be alive in December? Apart from faith, apart from faith and its ingredients, hope and evidences and all of that, how do you prove that you'll be alive in January 2021? You have no proof of that. You have no proof of that, but you have faith and you have the promises of God, and you can hold on to that and believe you will be risk on his own, because you are making plans for 2025. You are making plans for what you will do at your birthday, making plans for how you will help your child in gain admission to school, how you are going to pay school fees in 2 years' time. You are making plans for all of that, and you have no mathematics for how you are going to, whether you'll be alive there or not. So you're already taking risk and taking bets on your future on a daily basis, So if that is true, what you want to do is to come to a place not of certainty, but of clarity, where you do not relegate anymore the critical thoughts that you have to embrace today. And part of how that works is to understand that the moment you are over 30, you know that in 30 years' time, if you are still alive, you will be at the departure lounge of life, ready to take the flight. In 30 years' time, once you are above 30 today, if you are 30 and above, in 30 years' time, you will, if God favors you that you are alive in 30 years' time, then you will be at the departure lounge of life, ready to take the flight, because you will either be 90, or you'll be 80, or you'll be 70, or you'll be in your 60s. The moment you are above 30 today. So that is how we have to think, right? That is how we have to think. So what does that mean for you? What does that even mean? That's a whole lot of conversation. I don't want to spend too much time there, but that is your reality. So you want to create a 30-year plan and say that at the end of the next 20 years, I want to be able to beat my chest and say that I have finished all that I understand. I may not be creating new goals, but I have created all that I understand under God, with my hand, my brain under God. I have created all that I need to do in 20 years' time. If God gives you more life, then you can begin to ask questions about another 20 years. But I say that plan on 20 years, but plan on 30 years. Set goals on 30 years. Sorry, plan on 30 years, but set goals on 20 years. Manage that 30 years with a 20-year block. So in 20 years, if you have 30 years, if you are planning on 30 years, then, work with 20 years so that whichever way you land on some buffer for yourself. That is how I see this life. It means that, look at it, most of the institutions we know today, the individuals we know today, will no longer be on ground. Some of the big names we know. Just look at the leadership of the world. Look at the leadership in religious institutions. Look at the leadership, everywhere. A lot of voices we know today will not be there in 30 years' time, right? In 30 years' time, I'm pretty much 80 as well, I'll be 80, and I have bros and a lot of bones today. They'll be lucky to be alive, that's the reality, So, I say that to say that, you guys to embrace that. You guys to embrace that and begin to, structure based on that and express your faith based on that, because that is a reality, and a lot of things will change with that. Technology will change, enterprise will change, workforce will change, career will change, skills are going to be demanded differently. A lot of things are going to come into play as that change happens. Part of that is that Gen Z are going to come into full force, because if you now backtrack and add the same 30 years to whoever is age 1 today, you'll be 31. Add it to whoever is age 5, you'll be 35. If you are 10 today, you'll be 40 in 30 years' time. If you are 15 today, you'll be 35. If you are 15, you'll be 45. If you are 20 today, you'll be 50 in 30 years' time. If you are 25, you'll be 55 in 20 years' time. So the vibrant adults of the next 30 years are this Gen Z. And I've told you, youngest Gen Z is about 24. 24 plus 30, that is 54. So we are looking at a new set of adults by 2054. By 2050, 2051, 2055, we are looking at a different, brand new set of adults, right? Then when you understand that, you know, those are the adults, therefore, who will provide leadership, who will be buying, who will be paying for things, who will have purchasing power. That is so, it's their world now. So whoever is creating anything for the future or is going to have a stake in that future, you have to think of that demography, because that demography is going to define the adults of 2050. The adults of 2055 will be determined by that. Then the millennials of today will be the fading generation of that time, right? So I don't want to mention names. I've mentioned names many times, so no point doing that. But just think of any leader you know who is above 50 today. They will either be gone or they will be hanging, getting ready to go. Then think of all the young people you know. 70% of Nigeria's population is about age 31 and below and getting younger. So imagine how many people will be arriving at that space, right? That is if they are not taken out by SARS. That's a joke. If they are not taken out by the socioeconomic conditions and political, conditions and all of that, but that is the reality. So what does that mean? I'll begin to define that for you. If the future in the next 30 years will be governed by Gen Z, will be led, consumed, operated by Gen Z, then you have to understand Gen Z. First of all, these guys are rolling by a demand for accountability. They are demanding transparency. We've said this again and again. Everything we have said, it just keeps happening. You can't get away with things like you got away with it even 5 years ago, 10 years ago. The consciousness is getting higher. COVID has pressurized the system that people are now answering questions inside out because of the pain it has brought, the discomfort it has brought. People are losing confidence in articulating reality based on their circumstances alone. They are now going inside of them to ask real questions about who they are, about what freedom means to them, about what authenticity means to them, and they are comparing that with their circumstances and their reality, and they are finding so much disequilibrium, so much misalignment, that what they feel and what they see are completely different. So they want to close that gap, hence protest, hence rebellion, hence cries and all of that. Apart from the fact that we are also dealing with post-truth. November 16, 2016, a new word was accepted into the English dictionary. It's called post-truth. And I'm going to explain it in the most lay way, right? Post-truth is where, feelings, personal opinions, emotions become more useful in determining outcomes than reasoning or logic. In other words, where, personal opinions, personal views are more important than objective reasoning, right? So when you say post-truth, as a word, it means there was a time of pre-truth, truth, and now post-truth. The world is now willing to move and transcend beyond the absoluteness of truth. So that's why you hear words like my truth. My truth is, there's no such thing like your truth. There's only truth. It's either you are aligned with it or you are not. But that's not how the world is seeing it. So people believe personal opinion. That is why you see the rise of fake news, because personal opinions can defeat objective facts, objective reasoning. So when feelings are more important than objective facts, than objective reasoning, than logic, that is post-truth in force. So what people feel about the truth is by far more important than what the truth is about. What people feel is going on is by far more important than what is actually going on. So truth does not need to govern behavior anymore. The perception of truth is enough to govern behavior. That is why Brexit happened. Brexit happened on the back of so much lie, but it happened anyway. I mean, if you emphasize stupidity in front of people and put it there for a very long time, they're going to call it wisdom. So by this, I'm not saying Brexit is right for the British or not. I'm not saying so. But the mechanics that delivered that goal was based on a lot of lies, But once people feel good, words, phrases like total quality management are endangered now, because quality is now relative. No matter how fantastic your product is, if you cannot unlock the feelings, that attest to that quality, it's a useless product. People are not going to pay for what is great. They pay for what they feel is great. And so feelings is the new God. It's not helping marriages, because people are moving from how they feel to determine their action. I don't like this marriage. I don't feel good about it. Boom, I'm done. Divorce. I don't like this business. Boom, I'm abandoning it. I don't like this friend. Boom, I'm abandoning it. Words like tolerance are endangered. Words like fortitude are endangered. Words like strength, inner strength are endangered. Words like, grit are endangered. Words like endurance, tolerance are endangered, because people seek, the emancipation or the best cushioning for their feeling more than their reasoning. And so that is what is driving a lot of things. Is that wrong? Symposium discussion. On many levels, yes. But that is your reality. You got to use it. You got to engage it. You got to work with it. So the idea that you could take somebody and beat him up in a corner, you don't know who is recording you. You don't know who is watching you. Before you look at SARS, I mean, Premiership stars, Ozil, Arsenal is tweeting NSAS. I mean, American stars, NBA stars, footballers, at tweeting NSTARS, businessmen all over the world. I mean, backtrack to 10 years ago. Anything happening in Nigeria dies in Nigeria. But it's no longer so. 20 years ago, it dies here. Today is one world. It's one world. I'm going to get to that. So the idea is you got to be mindful of the generation you are leading. So how do you do that? We bring to the last question. So what do we do? What do we do about all of this? Very simple. Part of that is to, first of all, like I said, take a decision about the next 30 years and how you want to function in it. To understand the culture of the next 30 years, the leadership that cannot shape culture, that cannot rent a space in culture, is not leadership. You're not going to get traction. You're going to try, you're going to work hard, but you're going to fail again and again. You are dealing with freedom. How do you lead a generation that is demanding transparency? How do you lead? So you have to practice what I call participatory ideology, where you pretty much carry everybody along as a condition to the exercise of your own self and to the democratization of your own beliefs. The foundation of that is autonomy. You want to give people autonomy. You want to give people the freedom to be themselves. You want to give them the capacity to be themselves, to express themselves without, losing the truth that is needed for their own growth and development. Your responsibility is not to make people like you. Your duty is not to create copies who are going to dress like you, talk like you, echo what you say. No, it's to leave people in their authenticity, and then you creating a set of thinking, a body of knowledge that is unstable, fractionable, right? They can scale in their own practice so that people are believing the truth of your representation and they are not embracing the eccentricity that make it happen. And I'll give you a perfect example. For example, for people who are redeemers here, when you attend Redeemers Church, you see Papa Adeboye, awesome, amazing gentleman, open a city between two states, Lagos State and Ogun State, created IGR, internally generated revenue in taxes for the two states. I mean, if he was an American, he'd probably be in one Hall of Fame or the other. He pretty much created a new city, right, by building the Redeem Camp and created an economy, an entire economy around that area. Now, if you look at that kind of man and you want to copy him, you don't copy the way his French suit. That's not who he is. You don't put your neck out like him. That's not who he is. You don't say, let somebody shout hallelujah. That's not who he is. You don't carry tambourine. That's not who he is. All of that are the eccentricity that define his own, personality, that define himself. The genius of Papa Adeboye, the genius of Papa Adeboye, you cannot see. You got to learn. They are in his principles, in his assumptions, in his quality of thinking, in how he views the world. Now that you can learn, because principles are eternal and they must be learned, but methods will be disrupted. So when you research has shown that when you copy methods, you miss the genius that that method is representing. You focus on the eccentricity of that. People want Bishop Oyedepo is not blessed, for example, with saying poverty. Not that that is a blessing, but that's not, he's an African, and so he says poverty. Some people can say poverty, they can, but they say poverty. So you don't do that. You're missing the genius of the man. You want to focus on the genius of the man in many ways. Calling your hair in a particular way like Donald Trump doesn't make you Donald Trump. Wearing your clothes in a particular way doesn't make you Elvis Presley, right? And all of that. You find people in the north, in Nigeria, tying, jalavia, wearing, I don't know what it's called, so maybe I will get it wrong. I don't know what it's called, but they tie their head and tie with in so much heat, and where this thing is coming from, so they have winter there. It snows in some part of those places, right? So how do we focus on the principles of experiences and not the peculiarity of it? So we can go on and on. I'm saying the idea is you need to come to a place where you actually understand the people you are leading. And then I want to say this clearly. If you have to lead Gen Z today, there are some basic things you have to walk away from. Number one, you have to learn to share, to be generous with achievements and not claim to have achieved something that everybody achieved. It infuriates these people because these guys are looking for authenticity. Go check it. Every analysis of Gen Z said that they are seeking authenticity. They want you true. They want you authentic. They want you vulnerable, honest. To the extreme if possible. So you have to learn to be generous with compliments. Basic things like flexible when it comes to rules. You cannot be legalistic. You have to be flexible when it comes to rules. Even in the administration of faith, you have to communicate why and reason and negotiate than the emphasis of rules. You don't want somebody to smoke Indian hemp. You just don't say, don't smoke Indian hemp. That's rules. You got to explain why. You have to situate it in their own generation. You have to explain all of that against the backdrop of all the information online that is now making Indian hemp, marijuana legitimate, right? CBD products and all of that. You have to speak to all of that. And if you don't have that knowledge, then don't emphasize the rule. Because no matter what you say now, if you say it 20 years ago, people will probably nod. If you say it today, they Google it right there. As you are speaking on the pulpit, or on the stage, or on the platform, or in your political rally, or wherever you find yourself, or in your mosque, wherever it is, whether you are declaring, you are campaigning for a vote, or you are preaching in the mosque, or you are preaching in a Buddha temple, or in a church, wherever you are speaking as the principal of a school, or at the retreat of your company as the CEO, as you are speaking, they are fact-checking you immediately on the phone. And they can say, look at this guy just lying. Who doesn't need to talk? And you are losing credibility right there. By the time you are done with that speech, you have lost half of them. So we need to come to table with that level of clarity. You want to love sharing with people. You want to teaming up with people. You want to help others, achieve without you in their way. Those are the things you want to think about. If we don't come to that place, we lose a lot. So first of all, autonomy. You want people to be able to express the freedom their individuality deserves, to be able to share the thinking their individuality deserves. You want them to have the resources and attention, the encouragement, the respect their individuality deserves, including your children. I tell parents, there are some things you owe your children, and if you are going to lead them, if you don't supply those things, you are going to create rebellion right in your home. And it doesn't matter how much money you have. Money cannot solve these things. It's inspiration, reasoning, articulation, explanation, engagement that solves these things. You don't use things to create engagement anymore. You use engagement to keep things meaningful. So buying a car for a child does not change anything anymore. You engage that child so that when you buy the car, it can make sense to him. Otherwise, you give him car without reasoning, without negotiation, without inspiration, you're wasting your time. So you've got to come to that place of, autonomy. As a parent, you hold children the love their individuality deserves, the respect their individuality deserves. Don't just come arrogantly and say, I'm the father of this house, I do this, I do that. You are confidently ignorant. You are assertively ignorant. There's no place for that anymore. You got to sit them down and talk and articulate your position, right? I told somebody, not being able to communicate, we destroy more homes than any other thing in this decade that we are coming into. There are too much complexities in the heads and in the hearts of young people. You need to rent a space there with clarity as the tool. And as a leader, that is how people come around you. I don't care what you are trying to do. To rally young people around an idea, you've got to give them the freedom their individuality deserves, the love their individuality deserves, the respect their individuality deserves, the attention their individuality deserves, the resources their individuality deserves. Don't forget all of those things. They are critical. Listen to them again. There's no time, I need to go. So offer those things. You will find that, those things are like sugar. If you want to know the ants in the room that you are now, you don't need to announce and say, where are the ants? Please, anybody help me find the ants. No, just bring out sugar and put it at the center of the room. Put off the lights and walk out. Come back a few hours after. All the ants in the room are out around the sugar. Where the carcass is, the eagle, the vultures will gather. Get that right. And so come around that. Come around that. Be the sugar. Somebody said, how do I gain traction? How do people know who I am? How do they follow me? It's simple. Be the sugar and everyone will follow you. Be the sugar. Now, what is that sugar? What is the sugar of your attitude? What is the sugar of your environment? When you become that sugar, all the ants will come. When you become that carcass, all the vultures will come and eat. That is what we have to do. When you become that masquerade, the world will come and watch you dance. When you set yourself on fire, the world will watch you burn. They will tweet it. They will take it will go around the world. I'm not saying go kill yourself. I'm saying create action. Create the engagement that begins with autonomy for those who are going to experience you. They have the freedom to share their thoughts, to come to make their own contribution. If you have challenges with that and your ego cannot handle that, people are going to disagree with you. And they're going to tell you, sir, with due respect, we don't agree. We think it is this. You see, the more we emphasize rules, right, and we don't camp around inspiration and reasoning and explanations and negotiations, we create persecution. We create persecution, and persecution strengthens resolve and brings rebellion. So anything you persecute will grow, right? The gay movement grew because it was persecuted, and the more you persecute it, the more resolve you create, because persecution creates resolve, and the resolve creates an internal regulation to drive, their own commitment, whatever that is. So understand that autonomy is key. The next thing you need to watch out for is diversity. Leaders of the future, think about diversity. How do you manage diversity? The world is now one. technology is the instrument. Maybe we'll take some questions there, but technology is the instrument. It has kept the world on one spot. Action in country A will be viewed, judged, paid for, rewarded, punished, by people in country B, C, D, E, F. Prosperity in location A can be comforting failure or losses in location B, right? Losses in location B can be comforted by prosperity in location C, D, E, F. Ideas are now global. Global is no longer a choice, it's a duty. And I'm not asking you to run around the world. No, I'm saying position yourself in such a way that your ideas, your products, and your services can be assessed, seen, first of all, assessed next by anyone, anywhere in the world, and then paid for or bought, or aligned with. Whether you need followership, or you need traction at any level, or you need acceptance at any level, or you need purchasing power, people to pay for your products or to pay for your downloads or whatever it is you sell. I don't care what it is. If you are a plumber, you can be connecting plumbers in the United States. You can create jobs anywhere in the world. If you make shoes anywhere in the world, stuff can, why do you have so much American products all over Africa? So much. The advantage they used to have is technology. The goal of technology is speed, comfort, affordability, that transferability. That is the goal of technology. And that is the miracle of the 2020s, which you also have access to now. So you got to bring tech into all that you do and ensure that you become a tech organization. The world, if you are a hospital, the world can see you as an organization that is fixing people's bodies, that is healing people, that is treating people. That is how the world can see you. But internally, between you and your team, you are not just an organization fixing people. You are a tech organization. You are tech. You have to drive everything you do by tech. It keeps you elastic, it keeps you nimble, and it keeps you responsive no matter what is going on outside of you. That is why Amazon has not felt anything going on. If anything, they've made more money. Companies like Zoom, StreamYard, they were going to die. They were going to die if COVID did not happen. COVID has come to fast track the world and put all of us in tech mode, whether we like it or not. And so some companies that were already dying, that were already struggling, found new strength because we are already overdue for this gear. The way I say it is that we've been driving a car that has 5 speed, gear 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But you've never had any reason to move it beyond gear 1 and 2. You've been doing 1 and 2, 1 and 2. Then all of a sudden, a war is happening, or a lion is chasing you, or a tsunami is coming from your back. You have to move to 3, 4, 5 gear speed. The gear has always been there. The car has always been 5 speed, but you never had enough engagement to put a demand on 5 speed. The always been overdue for tech for nothing less than 10 years now. What COVID has done is to force all of us to move straight to the highest gear of tech. And so that is the way it has to go. The last one is opportunity. You guys to be able to spot opportunities for yourself and for those you care for and for those you lead. And part of that really is to think long term. Because opportunities are concentrated normalcy, right? Opportunities are concentrated in normalcy today. So when you learn to take the long-term view to things, what is going to happen is you spot the opportunities trapped in those things today before anyone sees it. So, for example, if you are selling, typewriter in the 70s or in the early 80s, all you needed to ask yourself is, what is the future of typewriter? We are making money from typewriter now, but what is the future of typewriter? And once you begin to read and study and buy and attend conferences, learning the future of the best of what you do, you spot the opportunities quickly and you position for that opportunity. It's as simple as that. There's future of real estate. There's future of fashion. There's future of cars, of automobiles. There's future of machines. There's future of computers. There's future of everything. There's future of wristwatches. There's future of everything. There's future of work. There's future of business. There's future of democracy has a future. And some don't have a future. And for some, the future is that they have no future. they are in like printing in does not have a future. The future of printing industry is that it has no future. I mean, so that is the reality. So you guys to think about that and begin to spot opportunities by taking the long-term view, always the long-term view to the best of what you do. And when you think like that, with so many things I've said and those you need to study and push on your own, you begin to set yourself up for functioning as an effective leader in the future and today. That is the way to go. Thank you so much. I hope I've helped you. I hope I've helped. Great stuff. What's the time now? Am I too early? No, I think I'm right on time, right? I'm right on time. Are we good? Are we good? I try to make sure I keep to time, you know. I think we started at about 7:30, right? Did I keep to time at all?
The guy behind the guy managing the studio must have gotten carried away. He forgot to bring me on. Wow. That was exceptional. That was exceptional. Come on. I see a comment there saying you have confused me beyond reasonable doubt. Well done. Wow, that is so awesome. I have a number of coaches and mentors and leaders on this online platform, and they just all heard you. I mean, it's so fantastic. We exhausted our time, and I'm not sure I can take you longer, but I think that there is something that I want you to speak into for maybe a minute or two. And right now in Nigeria, young people went out and they made a massive cry. We want an end to SARS. And we hear that it has been ended. Whether it's true or not, I mean, I can't answer that yet. But like you rightly said, it is not the truth that really matters. It is how we feel, what we feel about the truth that matters. So the perception is, if we don't agree with that, okay, if we agree with it. So the question is, at what point should leadership bow to the cry of the followers? At what point should leadership bow to the cry of the followers?
Every time, sir. I believe that, you know, I mean, the leadership has no it has no credibility, but for the followers. I mean, the goal of leadership is because of the followers. Without the followers, leadership is unnecessary, you know. And when we are leading people, particularly in a diversified community, where there are different ideas, different cultures, different assumptions, different ethnicity, you know, you cannot lead by the lines of right and wrong. You see, this is one of the most missed, you know, concepts in leadership. You cannot lead by right and wrong. For example, if you lead a church, you cannot lead, if you can't manage the people within the boundaries of right and wrong. You can't do that. The diversity of the people is going to get you biased and prejudiced and partisan at a level you don't. And you will please a set of people and displease another set of people. Even in the West, in Yoruba, where we come from, they say, Olori Ebi Okishoshelu. You know, that is what we say. Because the head of the family, we have PDP members, APC members. He has to find a bracket that transcends the two. The PDP members are his children. The APC members are his children. And he must father both of them, right? So that is the Olori Ebi. So I say to that if God has been thinking, for those of us who are Christians, for example, if God has been thinking about right and wrong, he will never need to die for humanity. He will never need to send Jesus down here. Even God does not relate to us within the lines of right and wrong. Because when you look at it, was it right for an innocent man to die for sinners? No, he didn't commit any crime. He shouldn't die. It was wrong for Jesus to die. It was right for him to live, but it was needful for him to die. So I say to people, when you want to lead within the complexity of diversity, you have to transcend the limits of right and wrong, embrace the needful. What is needful may not necessarily be the best idea, but it's a needful, instrument for consideration. So when the people cry, you must listen. First of all, you must acknowledge the cry. It doesn't mean you agree with it. And a lot of times, it's not the agreement people are looking for. They just need somebody to say, we care, we hear you, we are with you, we can walk through this. Can we sit down? Can we talk? What are the first steps that will comfort you? Okay, SARS, let's ban SARS. When you look at it, SARS has a weakness inside of it. I mean, any smart power center, you can close down SARS tomorrow and give it, another name, BAS, and they have NSARS, and then you call it BAS. Even if you don't call it BAS, you don't give it any name, it just exists within the police force as a department. It's not every department within any group that has a brand, that has a name. You don't have to call it a name. It can exist within there. And guess what? Even if we banned SARS, all the police officers, because it's not SARS, the brand, that is the problem. It is some people within the SARS that is discrediting the logic of SARS, the logic that set up SARS. And those people have not been fired. They are still in the police force. So even if in SARS, they are still there as police officers. So the effect we want to eliminate is not going to be eliminated by the cry to end SARS. However, acknowledging that cry and taking action and receiving NSAS as the immediate first step to identify with the cry of the people you are leading is leadership. So I told people I believe in SARS because cry is nature. People must cry, and pain is the creation. It's either high bliss or offensive pain that create cry. And you can't slap me and tell me how to cry. Please, what is that? Bad enough that you have slapped me. Then you are telling me how to cry again. Tell me that. Cry is an exercise of nature. If I cry as a leader, you receive my cry. You hug me in my cry. Get me to stop crying, because nobody can cry forever. I mean, when you look at it, you can't cry forever. Crying has a lifespan. So why not crying? Hug me, comfort me, minister to me at that time as my leader. Let me calm down. You can now begin to talk. So what is making you cry? NSAS. Oh yeah, NSAS. Boom. First of all, there's a law to ending SARS that does not end with ending the name SARS, and you know that. So if you are really sensitive to the people, give them NSAS first. Then you can form systems and structures to sit down. But when we begin to manipulate the cry of the masses, we take a detour away from the meaning and integrity of democracy. That's what we are doing. If we respect democracy as the government of the people, by the people and for the people, their cry is paramount. Their cry gathers the leaders together. Once they cry, everybody must gather to say, why are they crying? Once their cry is a performance indicator. And if you say that you are a leader and people are crying, you don't first think about the legitimacy of the cry. That's why I said intelligence and articulation, are luxury, and mere theory in the face of sweat and blood. I mean, people are dying. Somebody said to me, it's not NSAS we need Fix Nigeria. I said, because nobody has died in your family. It's easy to say these things, because nobody has been shot. It's easy to say these things. That is also say that we don't need to cure, we need to fix Nigeria. So don't let us do anything for poor people. Let us go and talk to Nigeria. There's something called palliative measures. Palliative measures. For example, we don't need orphanages. Orphanage is a palliative measure. No child is designed to achieve his or her highest esteem in an orphanage. Every child is built for a family institution. But in the failure of man to keep the family institution, We have to step up to create palliative measures where the children can have at least some sense of decency. That does not mean the objective of the life of a child is to live permanently in an orphanage. That's why people like J.K. Rowling are coming together to give money and say everybody in the orphanage, over 90% of them have a family. Let us go and investigate their family, find where they are, what is their problem, give them life coaches to work with them, empower them so that the children can return home. Because at the end of the day, they cannot be the best of who they should be in an orphanage. But does that mean we should not have orphanages? No. Orphanage is clearly not the solution, but it is a palliative to manage prevailing pain and prevailing discomfort. So EndSARS is a palliative just to manage prevailing pain and prevailing discomfort. Then leaders must sit down to now say, okay, how do we go forward? Obviously, the machinery that created the police force in Nigeria is outdated. An expired product. It's part of what we are saying now. And so the people who came to join the police force for economic conditions, right? And I've said it many times. The armed robber and the policeman grew up in the same neighborhood. There's nobody that grew up in Ikoyi that is in the police force. The police force is filled with the lowest of the lowest people. People who, if they didn't become police force, maybe they will become armed robber. Maybe they will become. That's the reality, you see. And so the failure of the system that created the armed robber is what created the police force. You see, that is why I don't even judge armed robbers. I hate what they do, but I understand their emergence. I know how they are created. You know what makes an armed robber in the United States is different from what creates an armed robber in Nigeria. You see, so there is a level of indulgence and sense of entitlement that creates crime in the United States. In Nigeria, you can almost justify crime. The people are suffering, the people are in pain, they are in discomfort, you know. So the policeman himself is endangered. Let's look at it. He doesn't have any instrument to comfort his future. He's not well paid. The little he's paid is not paid regularly. You know, the money he needs to comfort his own destiny is not there. He has hope, like you and I. He wants his children to go to a good school, to comfort him in his old age, to pay for his own home when he's retired, to take care of his life when he's retired. And he knows today that he will never have any one of those things. He's hungry, his life is upside down, he has no hope of the future. Then you give him a gun and say, protect us. Wow, give him a gun to protect you. That's why I tell people, when policemen ask you for bribe at times, for me, it's a gift. It's probably the highest expression of their dignity. They can do worse, you know, because you don't put a gun in the hand of an endangered species. You don't do that, you know. So I believe in EndSARS, but I also believe in the welfare of the police force. You know, there's a lot we have to do on both sides. You know, the police themselves need therapy. They need help. They need support. There's a lot of welfare economics we have to design around the police force itself, including our army, our air force, and, you know, our military. There's so much that has to be done. You know, so I agree with those who believe that fix Nigeria is the goal, but that should not in any way take our eyes away from the palliative that EndSARS represents. You know, there are good people in the police force, amazing people in SARS. And what I've said to people, let's be careful, because armed robbers wear shoes doesn't mean everybody wearing shoes is an armed robber. There are fantastic people in the police force that we have to honor. You know, and I've met even criminals that are fantastic fathers. But he's a criminal on another level. So there's something wrong. If you want to solve this problem, we cannot move by pain. Anger is not a strategy. We have to know how to minister to cries and tears, but we have to call ourselves to mental weaponry and sit down to begin to ask the tough questions and move ourselves in a progressive direction. That's what I believe, sir. That's what
Wow, thank you so much, Kiki. That's so amazing. I mean, fantastic. Thank you so much. I really must say that I appreciate you. I appreciate the concern, the love, and the care that you give to young people and the connection that we have. This is so amazing. I really appreciate it. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you so much.
I
need to let you go now. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Love
you all.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. That is PK for you. It's amazing. It's so amazing. And I know that you've gotten quite a bit there as a leader. Listen to people. I saw a post. I saw a comment there. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. So make sure that you're a caring leader. Don't just run your leadership the way you like. I know it's easy for us to look at others, but let's throw the searchlight on ourselves. How are you leading? What kind of a leader are you? How do the people perceive you as a leader? Because what you think you are and what they perceive of you are different things. Know where the change is taking place. Spot it and see how you can help your people. Time is not on our side, but I'd like to let you know that in my quest to always add value, by the 17th of this month, which happens to be my 49th birthday, I'm going to be hosting young people between the ages of 19 and 25, sorry. Between 19 and 25, I'm going to be hosting young people somewhere. I'm going to throw the banner here. Somebody has already posted the link. If you know people who are young between the age of 19 and 25, please invite them into the room. It's going to be a hybrid program. We'll have a physical center somewhere in Ikoyi. They will be made known to when they register, and then some people are going to be watching it virtually. But there are young people and they are boys. Young people, boys between the ages of 19 and 25. Please bring them in the room and let's just talk. I'm going to be having Leke Adeboye. I'm going to be having Nathaniel Bassi, not to sing this time. He's going to be there to talk. We're going to be considering values. You're going to be considering choices. And I'm going to be sharing on what I titled You Matter. Please get them in that room. Let's change the narrative and let's turn boys to men. Let's get young people doing what they need to do because this is their world. This is their time. If we fix the young people and we help them to be who they want to be, I'm sure life will change. Now, I'm not being a gender imbalanced person by saying boys. There is a vision behind this, and we're calling it a transformational round table. We need you to make this work. So please join us and let's do this together. I have my sisters, dynamic coaches in the house. I'm sure I'm going to be pushing them to put something together for girls. And I'm sure that together we can make a lot of change happen. Once again, my name is BC Akonde, and all I want to do is just add value to you. This is your leadership community. Thank you for joining us from the US, from Zambia, from Uganda. I see my friends all over there. Thank you very much for being in the room with us today. I'll see you again next Sunday by the grace of God. And it's going to be a wild time once again. Thank you. Bye-bye.